everyone, welcome to this, the third fit of David Denby's Snark. My fit of his fits, really. And continuing with what's become a tradition, I will begin with a list. These are other things that describe Snark, or other things that Snark is, according to David Denby. And this is starting with number 18, since we had 17 last time. Snark is Philistine. Snark will never honor the artistic or intellectually ambitious. Snark is not given to hard work, although I would say that what I'm doing right now tends to be in direct evidence against that. If there's one thing I will say about reading David Denby's book, is that it is hard work. Number 21, Snark's aesthetic judgments can't be trusted. And Snark is investigative reporting's bastard, weak-limbed child. More on that later. I actually meant to catch up on something that I missed in the last fit for some reason, but which is something of a theme in the book, that Denby seems very, very interested in sort of the emotional barometer of those who practice Snark, and is quite convinced that Snark comes from a position of envy and wound. When going through the classical history of Snark, he points out that those practitioners of Snark were out of power, and therefore envious of it. I believe his exact, here's a quote, Snark may flare up when a personal wound has festered, when a writer is physically miserable and mocked, when he has been exiled or dispossessed or passed over. The excruciations of envy, suffering, pride, and damaged amour propre, I can't speak French, drive the writer low. And I think that's just really interesting because, I mean, clearly this is someone who has to convince himself, you know, it's not him, it's them. And I really can say that this book, if nothing else, reads like someone who knows a lot about Snark, mainly from being the subject of it, and hence his judgments about those who practice it. Moving on to the more modern history of Snark. This page drove me particularly crazy, as you can see. Perhaps most amusingly to those of us who have been playing along, originally described as pink eye, Snark also apparently during the era of Private Eye magazine, Snark fell like manna into knowing ears, to which I can only say, God, get the manna out of my ears. And I only just got over the pink eye. He has a whole section on Private Eye. And in describing it, I think he gets a lot of things precisely backwards. It was founded by a group of Oxford students, and he weirdly suggests that in terms of authority, they were outsiders, but their values were strictly those of insiders, but insiders whose position in the world have been greatly diminished. Okay, number one, that makes no sense at all, so we'll just move on. And number two, he says the attitude in the magazine was paradoxical. This is a quote, him representing their views. We are defeated, but everyone else is ridiculous. We have no power, but we will win this game with the strength of our disdain. I think that I will edit that sentence just to show how it should read, which is, we are defeated, but everyone is ridiculous. We have no power, and we don't really care about the game. Denby's sort of obsession about insiders and outsiders, and about Snark somehow comes from those on the outside who want to be on the inside, I think suggests, if nothing else, that Denby really cares about this game that he talks so much about, and about winning it, and about not letting people who are better at it play. Moving on. Please don't insult the Beatles in his presence. And also, as, again, frequent viewers will remember, he is kind of obsessed with the idea that Snark will cause actual, literal death in someone who's been snarked at. And so he finds someone who indeed did die at some point after being made fun of by Private Eye, many years later. But he did die, not by suicide, by accident, but he did die. So I assume that is something we're going to be reading in David Denby's autobiography, or sorry, David Denby's obituary. Not that I want to see that anytime soon, David. He moves on to mock Thomas Wolfe's Radical Chic piece from the 60s, and in doing so pretty much convinces me that he has no idea what the piece is actually about. One of his big sort of conjectures about the difference between satire and Snark is that satire and irony, you're aiming for a better world, but with Snark, you're just disseminating rudeness throughout for no particular reason. He says that what lowers Wolfe's writing from social satire to snark is his contempt for absolutely everyone. Radical chic is not animated by the satirist, sharp, outrage, correcting desire for a better world. There's no ironic suggestion of a paradise lost of finer values than what's on display. Swift thought Ireland was at stake. Pope thought literature was at stake. I don't mean to suggest that the future of a country or an art form are the only subjects granted enough to inspire satire, but what was at stake for Wolfe? And I think if anyone who's read that piece would know that I think it's the entire idea that activism and democracy happen from the bottom up rather from the top up, and that activism isn't supposed to be a shiny accessory. And that's the better world. And also, like, what kind of writer would be like, and my aim in this essay is to claim, that's the definition of bad art, which Denby should know something about. More on Wolfe. Oh, and then he goes to spy. And he basically doesn't, he accuses it as sort of like, it's the American, American wellspring of snark. And he gets very upset that they for one thing, they apparently didn't mock the poor enough. He says they ignored the poor, so that's bad, I guess. But at the same time, he says, the editors were irreverent towards persons. The tone was physically intimate and coarse, but never toward power or money itself, which Spy took very seriously indeed. This strikes me as an entirely proper distinction, because power in of itself is not something you mock. You mock how it is used, or who uses it. But you don't mock power as a thing in the same way you wouldn't mock a log or a gun for being, a log or a gun. And also, I have to say, I do like the idea of mocking money, just in and of itself. Ha ha, you use money! Money! This chapter did inspire a big thought, which I will end with. So here's the thing. Snark may exist. It may even be definable. But the utility of defining it is minimal, like defining art or beauty or anything else that is best experienced and not analyzed. And here I will also include pornography. Defining it diminishes it and us, and perhaps in some way this is my real objection to the book. This book makes me feel smaller, which was no doubt Denby's intent. But the thing is, I think this book makes Denby seem smaller still. Okay, I'm going to try for one more chapter today. It's the chapter that I think delves into the internets and the tubes that run through them. So goodbye for now. I'm going to pour myself a Bloody Mary, and have a good day.